The homeowner had always believed that owning a house meant safety and control. The property was not just walls and a roof. It was years of hard work, late nights, and careful saving. Every payment was made on time. Every rule in the neighborhood was followed. The homeowners association was something they respected, even if it sometimes felt strict. The idea was simple. Everyone follows the rules, and everyone is protected. For years, nothing went wrong. The house stayed quiet and well-kept. Neighbors waved in passing. HOA emails came and went, mostly about lawn height, trash days, or parking reminders. Life felt stable. That sense of comfort made it impossible to imagine what was about to happen. One summer, the homeowner had to leave town for a few weeks. It was not a vacation, but work-related. The house was locked, bills were scheduled, and a neighbor was asked to keep an eye on things. Nothing seemed out of place. Before leaving, the homeowner checked the doors twice, shut the windows, and stood for a moment in the living room. Feeling proud of the space they had built, a week into the trip, an email arrived from the HOA. It looked normal at first. The subject line mentioned community access and temporary occupancy. The homeowner opened it casually, expecting routine information. Instead, the message said that the HOA had approved a temporary resident for the property due to lack of response. The words did not make sense. Temporary resident? Lack of response to what? The homeowner read the email again, slower this time. It claimed that notices had been sent, deadlines had passed, and action was taken in the best interest of the community. The message ended with a polite tone, as if this was a small and ordinary matter. Confusion turned into concern. The homeowners searched through old emails, messages, and letters. There was nothing asking for approval, no warnings, no calls. Nothing that explained this decision. Hands started to shake as the homeowner replied immediately. Stating clearly that no one had permission to enter or live in the property. Hours passed without a response. Then a short reply came back. The HOA said the matter was already handled and could be discussed upon return. That sentence felt cold. It felt final. The homeowner tried calling the HOA office, but it went to voicemail. Another email was sent, firmer this time, demanding details. That night, sleep did not come easily. Thoughts raced. The idea that someone might be inside the house felt unreal. The homeowner tried to calm down, telling themselves there must be a mistake. Maybe the HOA confused the address. Maybe it was a misunderstanding that could be fixed quickly. The next day, the neighbor back home was contacted. The homeowner asked if they had noticed anything strange. There was a pause before the neighbor replied. Yes, they said. Someone had been seen entering the house. The locks looked different. A light was on at night. Hearing that made everything feel heavy. The homeowner felt a mix of fear, anger, and disbelief. That was their home, their furniture, their memories. Someone else was inside, living there, using the space as if it belonged to them. The homeowner booked the earliest possible return. Every hour felt too slow. During the trip back, more messages were sent to the HOA, but responses stayed vague. They kept saying the issue would be reviewed later. No apology. No urgency. When the homeowner finally arrived back in the neighborhood, something felt wrong immediately. The driveway was occupied by a car they did not recognize. A plant sat by the front door that had never been there before. The air felt unfamiliar, like the place no longer welcomed them. The homeowner walked up to the door and tried the key. It did not work. A different lock had been installed. Panic set in. The homeowner knocked, heart pounding, unsure of what would happen next. After a moment, the door opened. A stranger stood there, calm and relaxed, as if they belonged. They looked surprised to see someone else, but not afraid. They asked who the homeowner was and why they were there. Hearing that question felt like a punch. The homeowner explained that this was their house, that there had to be a mistake. The stranger responded casually, saying they had permission from the HOA and paperwork to prove it. They claimed they were allowed to stay and had been told the owner abandoned the property. Abandoned. That word echoed loudly. The homeowner tried to stay calm, but emotions spilled over. They demanded the stranger leave immediately. The stranger refused. saying they were legally allowed to stay, and suggested the homeowner talk to the HOA neighbors, began to notice the raised voices. Curtains moved. Doors opened slightly. Some faces showed concern. Others showed judgment. The homeowner felt exposed and embarrassed, standing outside their own home like an intruder. The HOA office was only a short drive away. The homeowner went there immediately, barely remembering the drive. Inside, the atmosphere was quiet and formal. The staff listened, but their expressions stayed neutral. They said the property had been listed as unoccupied and that notices had been sent. The homeowner insisted. No notices were received. Proof of ownership was shown. Documents were laid out on the desk. Still, the HOA staff spoke slowly and carefully, saying the situation was complicated and would require review. They suggested patience. Patience felt impossible. The homeowner asked how someone could be allowed to move in without the owner's consent. The answer was unclear. The HOA said they were acting within their authority to prevent vacant properties from becoming problems. Walking out of that office, the homeowner felt smaller than ever. The rules that once felt protective now felt dangerous. The house, once a place of comfort, felt out of reach. That night, the homeowner stayed with a friend. Lying on a borrowed couch, staring at the ceiling, they wondered how things had gone so wrong so fast. The trust placed in systems and rules now felt broken. One question kept repeating in their mind. How could someone else be living in their home, and how could it be allowed? That question marked the beginning of a fight the homeowner never expected to face. After returning home, the homeowner found that the sense of safety that had always existed within the neighborhood seemed to vanish. The house no longer felt like theirs, and each glance at the front door brought a sense of unease. They had spent years making this house a home, filling it with memories and personal touches. But now someone else was living inside with the HOA's approval. The emotions were overwhelming. Anger, frustration, fear, and disbelief all mingled in the same space. It was hard to focus on anything else. The next morning, the homeowner decided to go door to door, talking to neighbors to see if anyone had witnessed anything unusual. Some neighbors seemed sympathetic but hesitant. They mentioned seeing unfamiliar people around the house, moving in furniture, or coming and going at odd hours. Others seemed cautious, avoiding direct eye contact, unwilling to get involved. The homeowner realized quickly that while people cared, most were too afraid to intervene. Rumors about HOA policies and rules had made them cautious, and few understood the seriousness of the situation. Feeling a growing need for answers, the homeowner returned to the HOA office. This time, they requested a formal meeting with a higher official, someone who could explain why a stranger had been allowed into their home. The office assistant, polite but firm, set up a meeting for later in the week. It was frustrating to wait, but the homeowner knew that without direct authority, the staff at the front desk could do little. The anticipation only added to their anxiety. Days went by slowly. During this period, the homeowner tried to communicate with the squatter. They wrote letters, left notes on the door, and even attempted brief conversations from a safe distance. The squatter's behavior was calm and almost casual, which made the homeowner more unsettled. It was as if they had the right to be there, even though they clearly did not. Each attempt to reason with the person ended with polite refusal and reminders that the HOA had approved their stay. The homeowner realized that logic alone would not solve this problem. Every visit from the HOA office seemed to bring more questions than answers. Staff members explained that notices had been sent to the homeowner, claiming non-response. The homeowner insisted that they had never received any official communication. The staff suggested that the post could have been delayed, misplaced, or ignored. It was frustratingly vague. No one could explain how the HOA had the authority to allow occupancy without the property owner's explicit permission. Every response made the homeowner feel smaller, like the rules had shifted against them. The homeowner spent hours each day, gathering all the paperwork related to the property, purchase documents, HOA agreements, past communications, and any correspondence proving residence and compliance. Every detail was important. They knew that to reclaim the house, they needed a strong record. At the same time, they tried to maintain normal life, going to work, meeting friends, and managing responsibilities. But even small tasks felt heavy. Their mind kept returning to the house, to the stranger, and to the seemingly endless bureaucracy. The emotional toll was immense. The homeowner felt exhausted, angry, and fearful. They could not sleep well at night, often waking up in a panic or imagining what the intruder might be doing inside their home. The stress affected work performance and personal relationships. Friends and family offered support, but it was hard to convey the depth of the frustration. They tried to explain the situation, but most people could not fully understand the combination of legal confusion and emotional impact. Each conversation was a mixture of venting and seeking advice. Tensions with neighbors became apparent. Some neighbors whispered about the situation, offering opinions that ranged from support to judgment. One neighbor suggested that the homeowner should simply let it go, that the HOA knew better and they should move on. That comment hit hard. The homeowner realized that the rules and authority they once trusted were now a source of vulnerability. They began to notice the subtle changes in interactions. Doors barely opened. Casual greetings were shorter, and some neighbors avoided eye contact. It felt isolating. To strengthen their position, the homeowner consulted a lawyer specializing in property disputes. The lawyer explained that the HOA had overstepped authority and that the homeowner's rights were being violated. However, the process to remove someone legally could be slow and complicated. Court filings, eviction notices, and formal hearings were necessary. The lawyer warned that every step required precision and patience. While frustrating, it was the only legal path to regain control of the home. The homeowner realized they would have to navigate a maze of procedures, deadlines, and legal documents, all while the stranger continued to live inside their property. Meanwhile, the squatter's presence became increasingly bold. They started rearranging items, using personal spaces, and making minor modifications, as if the house belonged to them. The homeowner tried to document every change, photographing and noting details for legal purposes. Each time they visited, the intrusion felt more personal. This was no longer just about a property. It was about personal space, respect, and security. The emotional weight grew heavier with each passing day. The homeowner also began researching HOA rules and legal precedents. They read through local laws, court cases, and advice forums. The more they learned, the clearer it became that what had happened was unusual, even by HOA standards. Notices had to be delivered, consent obtained, and owners given the chance to respond. The OA's claim of authority seemed weak in the face of documented ownership and non-receipt of notices. Armed with this knowledge, the homeowner prepared to challenge the HOA's decision formally. During this period, Stas, the homeowner, reflected on the life lessons being forced upon them. They realized that trust and authority, even when well-placed, could be fragile. Systems designed to protect could sometimes fail or act in ways that caused harm. The experience highlighted the importance of vigilance, preparedness, and knowledge. It also emphasized resilience, the need to act decisively, and the power of documenting everything carefully. Each setback became a reminder that the fight was not just about a house, but about standing up for one's rights. Finally, the day of the formal meeting with the higher official at the HOA arrived. The homeowner brought all documents, photographs, and a carefully prepared timeline. The meeting was tense. The official listened, occasionally nodding, sometimes taking notes, and sometimes appearing distant. Questions were asked about prior communications, responses, and attempts to resolve the situation. The homeowner presented evidence clearly and calmly. Despite the rising tension in their chest, after hours of discussion, the official admitted that there had been miscommunication and acknowledged that the homeowner's concerns were valid. While the HOA had acted within what they believed to be their guidelines, mistakes were made in handling notices and approval processes. The homeowner left the meeting with a mixture of relief and frustration. Progress had been made, but the road ahead was still long and uncertain. Returning home, the homeowner looked at the house, still occupied by the squatter, with a mix of determination and exhaustion. They understood that reclaiming their home would require patience, legal precision, and constant vigilance. At the same time, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They would not be intimidated, they would not be silenced, and they would not allow their home to be taken from them without proper legal process. That night, as they prepared for bed, they reflected on how quickly life could change. A place that once felt safe could suddenly feel foreign. Authority that was trusted could act in ways that betrayed that trust. But they also recognized the inner strength that was emerging, resilience born from necessity, courage in the face of unfairness, and a determination to fight for what was rightfully theirs. These reflections offered a quiet hope that, despite the challenges, they would eventually restore their home and peace of mind. After the meeting with the HOA, the homeowner understood that reclaiming the house would not be quick or easy. The squatter remained inside, acting as though they had every right to be there, while the homeowner was forced to watch from a distance, unable to take immediate action. Each day brought anxiety, sleepless nights, and an unsettling feeling that their private world had been invaded. The homeowner began documenting everything meticulously. Every visit to the property, every interaction with the HOA, and every small change the squatter made inside the house was recorded. Photographs of rearranged furniture, notes of conversations overheard, and detailed logs of unusual activity were collected. This process was exhausting, but necessary. The homeowner understood that in legal matters, evidence was power. The squatter, aware of the homeowner's persistence, seemed to grow more confident. They began using rooms in the house more openly, leaving personal items in areas that had once been private. The homeowner felt their territory being encroached upon, and the invasion was not only physical, but emotional. This was a space that held memories, quiet mornings, late-night talks, and moments of peace. Now it felt like a stage for someone else's life. The homeowner felt powerless. Friends and family tried to offer support, but the homeowner struggled to articulate the depth of the emotional strain. Explaining that a trusted system had failed them was difficult. People could understand theft or vandalism, but this situation was different. It was a slow, legal invasion, sanctioned by authority, and that made it feel almost surreal. Conversations often ended with sympathy, but the weight of isolation remained. The homeowner's work and daily routines began to suffer. Concentration was difficult when the mind kept drifting back to the house. Sleep was erratic, and anxiety attacks became more frequent. They realized that the stress was affecting both mental and physical health. Skipping meals, overthinking every sound near the property, and constant checking of emails from the HOA became part of the daily rhythm. It was exhausting, yet necessary to stay alert. Legal consultations became more frequent. The homeowner met with their lawyer to discuss eviction processes, court filings, and the necessary documentation to prove ownership and a legal occupancy. The lawyer explained that while the situation was legally complicated, the homeowner's case was strong if handled correctly. Patience was required. The homeowner listened carefully, taking notes and asking questions about every detail. Every step forward was small but meaningful. Meanwhile, the squatter's behavior began to change. They started acting as though the house was fully theirs, leaving items in new places and using utilities more freely. Small things, like leaving doors unlocked or windows open, added to the homeowner's stress. Each visit felt invasive, as if the home's boundaries had been erased. The homeowner made a plan to stay calm, knowing that reacting emotionally could create problems in court. Neighbors watched the situation unfold with quiet curiosity. Some offered small gestures of support, like checking in on the homeowner or sharing information about unusual activity. Others avoided interaction, fearing involvement in a conflict with legal and bureaucratic consequences. The homeowner realized that while community could be a source of strength, many people were hesitant to engage when the law and HOA rules were involved. It was a lonely battle. Daily life became a delicate balance. The homeowner continued working, meeting friends, and managing responsibilities, but always with a layer of tension. Every phone call from the HOA, every unknown car near the property, every unexpected sound triggered alertness. The intrusion into personal space had created a state of constant vigilance. Even simple things like grocery shopping or walking in the neighborhood were tinged with anxiety. The homeowner carried the weight of the invasion with them everywhere. Communication with the HOA remained frustrating. Every request for immediate action was met with delays, vague explanations, or references to procedures. The homeowner understood that bureaucracy was slow, but the lack of urgency was infuriating. Emails went unanswered for days. Phone calls were returned with scripted responses. The homeowner felt trapped between a legal system that was supposed to protect them and an authority that seemed unwilling to act quickly. The homeowner also began researching stories of similar incidents in other communities. They read about homeowners who faced legal invasions, disputes with HOAs, and slow eviction processes. The research revealed that such situations were more common than expected, but resolution often required persistence, documentation, and sometimes public exposure. This knowledge strengthened the homeowner's resolve. They understood that giving up was not an option. Every step forward mattered. As the homeowner prepared for legal action, they focused on emotional resilience. Meditation, long walks, and discussions with trusted friends became tools to manage stress. They learned to separate immediate frustration from long-term strategy. Anger was acknowledged, but controlled. Fear was noted, but not allowed to paralyze action. The homeowner discovered that while legal processes were slow, maintaining clarity and composure was essential for a successful outcome. The squatter continued to assert control over the house. They installed new curtains, rearranged furniture, and used spaces in ways that were clearly intended to signal permanence. The homeowner felt a mixture of anger and sadness. Each change was a reminder of how fragile personal boundaries could be when authority acted without proper oversight. It became clear that reclaiming the house would require not only legal proof, but also a demonstration of persistent presence and control. The homeowner set up a schedule to monitor the property. They visited frequently, taking notes and photographs. They spoke to neighbors discreetly to gather information. Every piece of evidence was organized in a binder, including dates, times, and descriptions. This routine helped the homeowner feel a sense of agency. Although the squatter was physically present, the homeowner was building a record of control, knowledge, and diligence that would support legal action. Throughout this time, the homeowner reflected on the broader implications. The situation was not only about a house, but about rights, accountability, and trust. Systems meant to protect could sometimes fail, and authority could be misused. Personal vigilance and understanding of legal rights became essential. The experience was painful, but instructive. Each challenge highlighted the importance of preparation, patience, and the courage to stand firm in the face of injustice. Finally, the day arrived to file official eviction paperwork. The homeowner, armed with weeks of documentation, photographs, and legal guidance, submitted the necessary forms. This step marked the beginning of a formal process that could eventually restore control of the property. The homeowner felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. Relief, because action was being taken. Apprehension, because legal proceedings could be long, stressful, and uncertain. The homeowner returned home that evening with a sense of cautious optimism. The squatter was still present, but the legal process had begun. There was a glimmer of hope that order and justice would eventually prevail. Despite ongoing stress and frustration, the homeowner felt stronger. They had endured emotional strain, navigated complex bureaucracy, and prepared for a legal battle. Each step forward reinforced resilience and determination. As night fell, the homeowner sat in the living room, looking at familiar spaces that now felt temporarily foreign. The journey had been difficult, but they understood that persistence, documentation, and emotional control were key. The struggle was not over, but progress had been made. The homeowner reflected on lessons learned, the importance of knowing rights, the necessity of vigilance, and the power of patience and persistence. Despite the challenges, they remained committed to reclaiming their home and restoring the peace that had once defined it. The homeowner knew that filing eviction papers was only the beginning. The squatter was still inside the house, and the legal process could take weeks or months. Every day brought tension and uncertainty. The homeowner spent hours thinking through strategies, making sure every action was supported by evidence and properly documented. The emotional weight was heavy, but they understood that careful planning was the key to regaining control. During this time, the homeowner began reviewing all previous correspondence with the HOA emails. Letters and messages were examined in detail. Each statement from the HOA was analyzed for inconsistencies or admissions of error. They highlighted passages that supported their claim and noted areas that required clarification. This work was painstaking but necessary. The homeowner wanted to be ready for any challenge the squatter or HOA might present. Neighbors became more involved in subtle ways. Some shared observations, like unusual deliveries or strange activity around the property. Others offered to be present during visits, providing a sense of safety. The homeowner appreciated these gestures, though interactions remained cautious. People were supportive but wary, understanding the potential risks of siding against the HOA or the squatter. Even small signs of solidarity felt meaningful. The homeowner also began researching local laws in depth. They learned about tenant rights, HOA authority, and eviction procedures. Every detail mattered: the timing of notices, the documentation required, and the correct legal language for filings. It was complex, and the homeowner often felt overwhelmed, but knowledge was empowering. They realized that understanding the system fully was their best defense against further complications. The squatter's behavior shifted again, perhaps sensing the homeowner's persistence. They began using spaces more openly, leaving belongings in rooms that had been private. Small acts, like changing decorations or moving furniture, were subtle assertions of control. The homeowner observed carefully, recording each instance. The invasion was not violent, but it was deeply personal. Every act reminded the homeowner that their home was being occupied without consent, and that the fight to reclaim it was both legal and emotional. One evening, the homeowner met with their lawyer to discuss the next steps. The lawyer emphasized patience and precision. Eviction could take time, especially if the squatter contested it. They reviewed all evidence, ensuring that photographs, dates, and correspondence were organized. Each detail would be crucial in court. The homeowner listened carefully, asking questions and taking notes. Legal proceedings could be slow, but thorough preparation would make a strong case. While legal matters were ongoing, the homeowner tried to maintain a sense of normalcy in life. They continued working, visiting friends, and managing daily responsibilities. It was difficult, as anxiety often surfaced in unexpected moments. But creating a routine provided stability. Exercise, walks, and conversations with supportive friends helped manage stress. Emotional resilience became as important as legal preparation. The homeowner learned to balance vigilance with moments of calm. The HOA remained a source of frustration. Responses to inquiries were slow and often vague. Meetings were scheduled and rescheduled, and explanations were sometimes contradictory. The homeowner began to see a pattern of negligence or mismanagement. While the HOA claimed authority, their procedures had failed the homeowner. Understanding this dynamic became part of the strategy. Holding the HOA accountable was as important as removing the squatter. Documentation became a daily routine. The homeowner visited the house regularly, noting any changes and photographing evidence. Conversations with neighbors, interactions with the HOA, and encounters with the squatter were all logged. This record created a clear timeline of events and a foundation for legal proceedings. Each entry provided reassurance that they were building a case that could not be ignored. Emotions continued to fluctuate. Anger and frustration were constant companions, but the homeowner learned to channel these feelings into productive action. Rather than reacting impulsively, they focused on strategy, collecting evidence, consulting with the lawyer, and maintaining communication with the HOA. Patience was challenging, but necessary. Every careful step reinforced their sense of control and determination. The squatter occasionally left notes or messages claiming rights to the property. These messages were polite but firm, often referencing HOA approval. The homeowner kept each message, understanding that documentation of the squatter's behavior could support legal arguments. Each interaction became a piece of the larger puzzle, demonstrating persistence, intrusion, and the necessity of formal resolution. Friends and family continued to offer support. They provided practical help, like accompanying the homeowner to meetings or helping organize documents. They also offered emotional support, listening without judgment, and providing encouragement. Even simple gestures, like a shared meal or a phone call, helped the homeowner maintain a sense of balance. The situation was isolating. Small acts of care made it more manageable. The homeowner also began preparing mentally for court proceedings. They anticipated questions, thought through potential arguments, and rehearsed clear explanations of the timeline. This preparation reduced anxiety and increased confidence. Understanding the process and having a plan made the situation feel less chaotic. The homeowner knew that the legal battle would require both factual clarity and emotional composure. As weeks passed, small victories emerged. A notice from the court acknowledged the eviction filing and scheduled initial hearings. The homeowner felt a sense of progress, even though the squatter remained inside. Every official step reinforced their claim and increased pressure on both the HOA and the squatter. The process was slow, but tangible results provided motivation to continue. Throughout this time, the homeowner reflected on the broader lessons. Trust in authority had limits. Systems designed to protect could fail. Personal vigilance and understanding of rights were essential. At the same time, the experience highlighted resilience, determination, and the importance of careful planning. The homeowner realized that while the situation was difficult, it was also an opportunity to strengthen skills, patience, and confidence. Finally, the homeowner prepared for the first court hearing. The binder of evidence was organized meticulously, and legal advice was reviewed. They understood the importance of clarity, calmness, and thorough presentation. The squatter would likely contest, and the HOA's past mistakes might be examined. The homeowner felt a mixture of anxiety and resolve. The fight was far from over, but they were prepared to defend their rights. The day of the hearing arrived. Sitting in the courtroom, the homeowner watched the squatter enter, calm and confident. The tension in the room was palpable. The judge reviewed documents, listened to arguments, and asked questions. The homeowner presented evidence clearly, showing ownership, documentation of intrusion, and attempts to resolve the matter with the HOA. Every detail was noted. Every point reinforced by records. The hearing concluded with a decision to proceed with eviction, though additional steps were required. The homeowner felt relief tempered with awareness that the battle continued. Progress had been made, and the legal system acknowledged the validity of their claim. The squatter could challenge, delays could occur, but the foundation was strong. Returning home, the homeowner reflected on the journey so far. The house still held the presence of the squatter, but the tide was turning. Preparation, documentation, patience, and emotional resilience had brought tangible results. The homeowner understood that persistence was essential and that each careful action was moving them closer to reclaiming their home. As night fell, he sat quietly, thinking about lessons learned. Trust needed verification, authority required accountability, and personal vigilance was crucial. The journey had been difficult, but growth and strength had emerged from adversity. The homeowner felt a renewed sense of determination. The squatter's presence was still a challenge, but the homeowner had gained control over strategy, knowledge, and patience. The fight was far from over, but hope had returned, and the path forward was clear. The homeowner entered the final phase of their struggle with a mix of anxiety and hope. After months of patience, documentation, and preparation, the legal process had progressed far enough to make them feel that justice was within reach. The squatter still occupied the house, but the legal system now recognized the homeowner's claim, and official actions were in motion to restore control of the property. Every day, the homeowner continued to document everything. Visits to the house, interactions with neighbors, and any new behavior from the squatter were carefully recorded. Photographs were updated, notes were kept with precision, and copies of all correspondence with the HOA and legal authorities were organized. This level of attention was exhausting, but essential. The homeowner understood that each piece of evidence strengthened their position and left little room for dispute. The squatter, aware of the legal developments, began to act more cautiously. There were fewer attempts to assert control over the home, and their behavior became less bold. Items were not moved as often, and rooms that had been invaded were left mostly untouched. The homeowner observed these changes with a mixture of relief and vigilance. Progress was evident, but patience remained crucial. The HOA, now under pressure from both the homeowner and the legal system, started to acknowledge mistakes more clearly. Official statements admitted errors in communication and improper authorization. While this did not immediately remove the squatter, it created accountability and reinforced the homeowner's claims. Seeing the HOA take responsibility, even partially, was encouraging and demonstrated that persistence could lead to tangible results. During this time, the homeowner also focused on emotional recovery. Long walks, conversations with supportive friends, and moments of reflection helped manage stress. They learned to separate ongoing challenges from personal well-being, understanding that emotional resilience was as important as legal strategy. Each small victory, like a neighbor offering support or the squatter showing restraint, was celebrated as progress. Legal preparations intensified. The homeowner worked closely with their lawyer, reviewing the case, anticipating possible challenges from the squatter and ensuring all documentation was in order. Court filings, eviction notices, and formal communications were handled with precision. The homeowner understood that thorough preparation was essential to avoid delays or complications that could prolong the process. The squatter, realizing the homeowner's persistence and legal backing, attempted subtle resistance. They sent messages claiming rights to the property, referenced prior HOA approval, and occasionally moved minor items. Each act was noted carefully by the homeowner. Rather than reacting emotionally, they focused on documentation and legal strategy. Maintaining composure became a crucial tool in the battle. Neighbors continued to be a quiet source of support. Some shared observations about activity at the house, while others simply offered moral encouragement. The homeowner appreciated even small gestures, understanding that the situation had placed them in a delicate position. The support reinforced the importance of community, even when others were cautious about involvement. Finally, the day of the final eviction hearing arrived. The homeowner, armed with months of documentation and clear evidence of ownership and intrusion, presented the case in court. The lawyer carefully guided the process, ensuring that all points were addressed and that every piece of evidence was considered. The squatter appeared calm, attempting to assert that their occupancy was justified. But the homeowner's meticulous records and the HOA's admissions provided a strong counter. The judge reviewed all materials, listened to both sides, and examined the timeline of events. The homeowner presented photographs, notes, and documented communications, demonstrating the unauthorized presence of the squatter and the HOA's errors. Each point was clear and supported by evidence. The legal system, though slow, not recognized the homeowner's rights and the need for resolution. After careful consideration, the judge ruled in favor of the homeowner. The squatter was ordered to vacate the property within a specified period, and the HOA was instructed to revise policies to prevent similar situations in the future. Relief washed over the homeowner, mingled with exhaustion from the long and emotionally draining journey. Justice had been served, but the experience had left lasting impressions. Returning to the house after the squatter's departure, the homeowner felt a mix of relief and reclaiming. Walking through familiar spaces, touching furniture, and seeing the home restored brought a deep sense of peace. The house, once a source of stress and invasion, now felt like a sanctuary again. Every room held the memories of resilience, patience, and determination that had carried the homeowner through the ordeal. The homeowner also reflected on broader lessons learned. Trust and authority required vigilance. Systems designed to protect could fail, and personal knowledge of rights was essential. Emotional resilience, careful planning, and persistence were as important as legal strategy. The experience had been painful, but it had strengthened resolve, clarity, confidence. In the days that followed, the homeowner worked to restore normalcy. Personal items were organized, minor repairs were made, and routines were reestablished. The emotional weight gradually lifted, replaced by a renewed appreciation for stability and personal space. Friends and neighbors who had offered support were acknowledged, and the homeowner felt gratitude for the quiet solidarity that had helped sustain them. The HOA also took steps to improve procedures, acknowledging mistakes and reinforcing communication protocols. While the homeowner remained cautious, seeing the organization take responsibility and implement changes provided reassurance that similar issues might be prevented in the future. Accountability had tangible effects, reinforcing the homeowner's belief in persistence and advocacy. Reflecting on the journey, the homeowner realized that the ordeal had transformed their understanding of home, rights, and community. The house was more than a structure. It was a space of memory, safety, and personal significance. Protecting it required vigilance, knowledge, and courage. The homeowner's persistence had reclaimed not only the physical space but also a sense of control and security. As time passed, life returned to a more familiar rhythm. The homeowner continued work, spent time with friends and family, and engaged with the neighborhood cautiously but confidently. The sense of violation slowly faded, replaced by satisfaction and a renewed connection to the home. Every day in the restored house was a reminder of resilience, patience, and the power of standing up for one's rights. The homeowner often reflected on the strength discovered during this period. The emotional trials, legal battles, and moments of doubt had revealed capacity for persistence, calm under pressure, and strategic thinking. These lessons extended beyond property ownership, influencing broader approaches to life, challenges, and personal advocacy. In the end, the house stood as a testament to endurance. Every room, every corner, and every object symbolized the journey from intrusion and uncertainty to restoration and peace. The homeowner had navigated fear, frustration, and bureaucratic obstacles, emerging stronger, wiser, and more confident. The home was safe again, and with it, the homeowner's sense of security, dignity, and determination had been fully restored.